So let's start with our new chapter in our history book, that is Unit 8, Ashoka, the Emperor who gave up war. Now when we talk about Ashoka, we all know that Ashoka was not only called as Ashoka, but he was also called as Ashoka the Great, as we call Alexander the Great. That means he must have done something great in his life. That is why he was given the title as Ashoka the Great. So in this chapter, we will be studying about what is an empire, what is a kingdom, what is a dynasty, about Ashoka, and about how he gave up war and how he led a very simple life, leaving everything behind him. So let's start with our chapter. So in the first, a very big kingdom and an empire. Now what do you mean by a kingdom and an empire? Now Ashoka was one of the greatest ruler. Now you all have studied about the Mauryan Empire, right? So that is the start of the Mauryan Empire, that means headed by Chandragupta Maurya, his son Bindusar, and then as it moves ahead, it has a... So the Empire Ashoka, that Ashoka rule was founded by his grandfather. And who was his grandfather? Chandragupta Maurya. In 2300 years ago, Chandragupta Maurya was a wise man, and Chandragupta was supported by a wise man called Chanakya. Yes, you all know about Chanakya. He is also known as Kautilya. He wrote the book Arthashastra. Okay, so he was the one who was a very wise man, and how he started with the with the Mauryan Empire, thrown away the Gupta, the Nanda dynasty. Now there's a big story regarding behind this. So the story is as like the Chandragupta Maurya was belonging to not a king, or not belonging to a big kingdom. He was from a Maurya. Maurya means in Hindi we call as More. The one who was from a tribe that tamed peacock. That's why his name was Chandragupta Maurya. Now long ago when Chanakya found out that there is a threat to the great Indian subcontinent, he started, you can say, collecting people. He went to different kingdoms to collect people so that he could everybody could come forward and can fight the great Alexander, who was about to come to India to capture India. As Alexander was on he was on a Digvijay, as you say in historical. He was started with conquering different parts of the world where he was. That's why he was called as the Alexander the Great. See, on his way from where he started from Athens, Greece. So on his way, India was also there. So there was a threat for the foreign invasion in India. So Chanakya went to the Mauryan king at that time, the Dhananand. So when he went to him, he said that there is a great threat to the Indian subcontinent, and that we should get together, all the other kingdoms, and we should fight our enemies, and we should not let any foreign invasion come to India and rule over India. So King Dhananand was a very proud, and he was very powerful at that time. Magad was very powerful. It was on the northern plains and had a great army. It was very prosperous kingdom that time. So Dhananand insulted Chanakya and he threw Chanakya out from his court. And Chanakya, being a teacher, a guru, a great scholar, a wise man, felt very insulted. And that is the time he vowed that he will destroy the Mauryan, the Nanda dynasty, and will throw away Dhananand from his seat, from his throne. And that is what is there now. He opened his head and then he vowed. So that is how the story goes on. Then later on, he went around to find a man who can be legible enough to be seated on the throne of Magad, ruling over most of the part of India. He went about, found a person, and that person was a small boy known as Chandragupta. Chanakya trained him in war and many other subjects, as Chanakya was a great guru. So he trained him into warfare, astronomy, astrology, mathematics, administration, everything he trained him into. And he came up to be a great warrior known as Chandragupta Maurya. And finally, when he was eligible enough to sit on the throne, he gave a tough war to Dhananand and finally was a winner, emerged as a winner, and took over the throne of the Magad, and there started the Mauryan dynasty. So this was the story of how, it is not in a book, it is just I would like to share a story with you. So that is how the Mauryan dynasty started. Start with knowing about, as we just saw, the story about how the Maurya dynasty started. So it started with Chandragupta Maurya, then came Bindusar, his son, and then Ashoka, Bindusar's son. So that is how we will come to Ashoka later in this chapter. So let's know what is a kingdom and what is an empire. So here we know that a kingdom and an empire are two different terms. An empire needed more, it's a collection of big kingdoms. Okay, so an empire needs more resources than kings because empires are larger than kingdoms and needed to be protected by big armies. And they also need larger officials also who collected taxes. So in terms, an empire is a collection of many kingdoms and kingdom is smaller than an empire. When we talk about dynasty, a dynasty is it's like a lineage, a group of same, member of the same family, like the Mauryan dynasty. When we say, that means it starts from Chandragupta Maurya and it goes on till Ajatashatru and then ahead of that. So that means member of the same family who take over the throne. That is called the dynasty. As we know, the Mughal dynasty started with Babur, then his son Humayun, then Akbar, and then Jahangir, and then it goes on till the last ruler of that particular dynasty, that is Bahadur Shah Zafar II. So that is called a dynasty, when of the same family member take over the throne. So as it is said that here, Chandragupta, his son Bindusar, and Bindusar's son Ashoka. Now Ashoka, you all know about Ashoka by how? In the inscriptions written on the pillars, on the walls, like the prashastis, as you know, the praises. Now the Ashokan Pillar, you all know about the national emblem that you find on the notes, the currency notes, the coins. That's a national emblem. That is the four side, the lion facing the four side. There are four lions. That's the national emblem. That is in that pillar, that is the Ashokan. The pillar has Ashoka's Prashasti written, and that was, the pillar was made by Ashoka the Great. Then we move into the different the cities, several cities in the empire. What are the different cities in the empire? They were the Mauryan Empire basically. You will find this on map on page number 76. They have Taxila, Ujjain, Patliputra, all these. Now, when Ujjain lay a route from north to south India, now it was like a gateway. It was situated in the middle of India, and it was a great from north to south and east to west. So it served a very important position at that time. In other areas, there were villagers and there were farmers and herders. And in some areas such as central India, there were forests where people gathered, forest producers hunted animals for food, and then different empire. They spoke different languages also. And one of the famous language or the common language of the people were Prakrit. Okay, so they spoke about different languages. Magadhi was also one of the language of Magad. There was Pali, Prakrit, Sanskrit. All the other languages were spoken by the people. They probably ate different kind of food and wore different kinds of clothes as well. Now the ruling the empire. So let's talk about an empire. How the empire was ruled. As you know, that empire is a big unit. That means under an empire there are several other kingdoms. That means it's very big, and the ruling is also very big. That means there are a lot of kingdoms under the control of one king. So how it used to be ruled? So different parts were ruled differently. The king used to be in the capital, used to stay in the capital city. That means at that time, the capital of the Mauryan Empire was Patliputra. And it was directly under the control of the emperor. So this meant that the other officials, like the governors or the prince, used to be governing different parts, different other kingdoms. Okay, and there were other officials who used to collect taxes. Then there were farmers, herders, craftspersons, traders who lived in different parts of the town area. There were messengers also who were sent to and fro, means to different parts of the kingdom to bring news of the different how it was being ruled. There were spies also. Okay, spies, as you say, as a detective or a jasoos in Hindi call it. So there were spies who used to be set up in different kingdoms to know the important what is happening in the kingdom, what are they conspiring about, or is there any plan, or is there any attack or something that was dealt by the spies. Then there were many other officials, like there were family members also, there were other senior ministers who used to help in the maintaining how a kingdom can be ruled. They used to help the king in maintaining the kingdom. There were other areas of the province, and each were ruled by different provincial capitals. That means the kingdom used to be very big, so it was used to be divided into different provinces. That means each province had a governor, each province had some ministers, and these also used to collect taxes, used to help the governor, and who used to maintain the army. So that is how it used to be taking place. So each of it ruled by the provincial capitals such as Taxila or Ujjain, although there was some amount of control from Patliputra. And the royal prince were often sent as governors. I just told you that the prince and all the royal members of the family were sent as governors to these kingdoms. Local customs and rules were properly followed. Besides this, there were vast area between the centers. They tried to control roads, rivers, and they were important for transport. There were a lot of forests whose forest produce were used. And they used to collect taxes on traders and on the produce. And that is how the kingdom used to be working. The funds were used to get for the kingdom. Like for example, in the Arthashastra, tell us that the northwest was important for blankets and South India for its gold and precious stones. Yeah, because different parts of the kingdom were important for different items. Like the southern India was famous for spices also, semi-precious stones, pearls, Then, as it said that the northwest part was important for making blankets. So that is how it is possible that these resources were collected as tributes. Tributes means as a gift to the king and to the people, the royal people in the kingdom. So that was given as gifts, right? Unlike taxes, there were taxes, that is cash and kind. As was like taxes were used for the betterment, for the maintenance of the kingdom, whereas gifts were, or the tributes were given to the king or the royal family as gifts. And then they were kind, means cash and kind means taxes can be paid in cash, that means in currency, or kind means the 1/3 or 1/5, 1/3 of the, or 3/4 of the produce, as in whatever they grow in that field. There were also forested region. Yes, there was. It was in the northern plain that has a good network of roadways. It's a plain. It has a lot of forest. From there, you get a lot of forest produce. You get horses. You get elephants. You get honey. You get wax. You get different other things. Wood, medicine that was used in the empire. So they were all used by the Mauryan officials. So in the next video, we will be studying about Ashoka, how Ashoka was a unique ruler, how he left war, and how he started living a very simple and a very religious life. So this all we will see in our next video.